over here is going to pitch a crypto, and then both NFTs Anonymous and Push and Post are going to each pitch NFT projects. And then Evan, Stock Market News, if you want to chime in with any stocks because you're a long-term investor, you're more than welcome to throw something out there. And I'll kind of ask questions and improv along the way. And Matthias, same to you. If there's anything that you want to put out there, you're welcome to in those asset classes.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, cool. So with that being said, I think we're going to kick it off. We're probably going to kick it off, I think, with Colin and have that go first. And because we have four main speakers, you guys definitely can take the time tonight if you want to run like 7, 8 minutes or something like that with your pitch for whatever your asset is. And then we'll come in with a couple of questions and then we'll go from there. If any of my speakers are in like time limits where maybe you have something coming up at 7:30 or you have to go earlier or something like that, just shoot me a DM and I'll kind of put you afterwards. But nobody had really let me know anything ahead of time. So we'll start off with Decade Investor. And then right before he does go, I've pinned up top. We kind of started this last week. We're doing a giveaway for the Asset Dash Wall Street Bull that we purchased together. Basically, I partnered with Asset Dash to give it away. That is pinned up top, and everybody can enter. It's basically just by hopping on the app and throwing that a retweet. Fantastic app, really helpful if you're into all these asset classes. And we're going to go deeper into what you can do with the app kind of towards the middle of the space. But first, if everybody could retweet the space out in some way or share it in your timeline, that would be awesome. And second, the floor is yours, Decade Investor, all you.
What's going on, everyone? So yeah, my name is Colin, but my social media stuff is Decade Investor. But yeah, Gav had me come on here and want to talk about a stock. I know it's not the fun stuff like crypto and NFTs. I recently got into the NFT space, if you follow me on Twitter. But I will be talking about one stock, and I also want to talk about kind of one industry as well. So I want to do this, if that's okay with you, just like one stock, but one industry and kind of separate. And the industry I'm really excited about over the next decade, to be honest with you, is the electric vehicle, just all things electric, that space. And the reason for that is if we look at a lot of estimates that are going on and predictions about the overall EV space, it's expected that just under 50%, this is by 2030, that just under 50% of all new cars purchased around the world will be electric vehicles. We're currently at around just under 10%. And so that's massive, massive growth potential for that space. And the reason I want to focus on a different stock here in a second, but I just wanted to throw that out there is that the EV space is something I'm super, super bullish on. And now when it comes down to company, you have like Tesla, who is the forefront of the EV space, but you have companies like legacy automakers like Ford, Volkswagen kind of creating their own electric vehicles. You have some new companies like Lucid or Rivian jumping into the space. And so I don't know. And if some of those questions, and we can talk about that after this if you want to focus more on this. But I don't know what EV automaker per se will be the one. I don't know what EV not automaker, but maybe a charging station company or a EV parts maker. I'm not sure. I'm really bullish on the industry overall, so I just get into an ETF that covers that space. But that's just kind of one industry I'm really excited on. And if, like I said, I want to focus more on the stock, the asset itself that I'm going to talk about here in a second. But that is just something I want to throw out there. If someone has questions after, by all means, we can talk about that. But the stock I want to focus on is, I'm more of a I am a long-term investor. I'm not someone that really messes around with options. I don't really do a lot of growth stocks, small mid-cap stocks. I do a lot of large cap, just, buy and hold type investments. And again, not as flashy as the NFTs or the crypto space, but one company that I'm really excited about. And I see a lot of potential with it. That's why we invest, because we believe it's going to go up in price over the long term, is Starbucks. Now, that's kind of what I want to focus on in this little session here that I have to speak, is really three main points with Starbucks and why I like this company. Now, I'm not someone that necessarily drinks coffee a lot, but if y'all buy Starbucks, keep buying it, because y'all pay me out in dividends, so thank you. But I think there's a really, really great opportunity right now to get into this company. Currently, year to date, Starbucks is down 19.74% in 2022. So pretty much 20% down, a 20% sale on this stock that I love. I've been buying for years. We'll continue to buy. But there's really three big things that I'm really excited about for the future, right? Because when we look at an investment, especially a company like Starbucks or really any like S&P 500, any large company, what are they going to do in the future to continue to grow and expand as a company overall? And like I said, there's three things I want to focus on with Starbucks. Number one is that they're really focusing on the digitalization of coffee, but more importantly, like Starbucks itself. They really want to focus in on that because, as we all know, our phones are connected to us all the time. Our computers are connected. I mean, my phone, I can't even keep my phone charged all day. You know, it's and I'm sure that Wolf has the same. I see his screen time on Twitter, and mine's pretty
I'm
much up
always
there as
plugged
well.
in, man. I
Yeah,
don't go
yeah.
10 feet from a charger.
Man, my phone battery is, if you go to like battery health, mine's like, it's horrible. But so we're connected to that, and everything's digitalized, whether that be, you know, for a lot of different reasons. And Starbucks currently has 17.9 million active members solely in China, which, you know, this is on their online platform, their app. 17.9 million active rewards members. That might not sound like a lot because I know China has, you know, around 1 billion in the population, but that's up 33% since 2020. This is right. We're kind of at the beginning of 2022. So I'm using, when I say last year, I might be talking about 2020. So I'll make sure I make that clear. Up 33% since 2020 in China alone. And in the US, they have 24.8 million active rewards members. That's up 30% from 2020 for the US. So up 33% in China, up 30%, excuse me, in the US in their digital, you know, their digitalization, their digital footprint, for lack of better terms. And on top of that, over 50% of the sales in the US came from those customers. So over half of every sale that came from the US was from those users that are using their app, their digital footprint, however you want to call it. And that user base is up 30% from the prior year. So they can continue to grow that. And I think they will, as more and more people, you know, as technology gets stronger and better, as more and more people use the app, the digital footprint of Starbucks, meaning is going to go up and up, more users. And studies show statistically that those users are more likely to continue to buy, be repeat customers. Over 50% of those sales came from those customers in that digitalized space. They're more likely to increase their customer base, right? And those rewards members are more likely to, you know, use that digital app, which is going to give a lot of data for Starbucks and a lot of great opportunity. So that's one space I'm really excited about with Starbucks, is just their digital footprint. A lot of companies are doing this. It's not just Starbucks, but as an app like Starbucks, or excuse me, like a company like Starbucks, that really relies on lower margins. And I know, like, you know, compared to other coffee shops, it's higher price. But I'm saying in the generalization, in terms of like paying for labor and all this stuff, they can possibly reduce labor if more people are using the app, using mobile, right? There's a lot of benefits of the growth of their digital footprint. But another thing I'm really excited about with Starbucks is their international growth. Just like I mentioned, their active rewards members in China were up 33% from 2020. In 2022, their CFO mentioned that they want to grow their store number by 2,000 stores in 2022. Now, I know that's a really, really ambitious number, but they want to grow by 2,000 stores in 2022. That would be a 6% store growth over 2021's levels. Now, whether that, you know, this is why I'm excited about this part, because, you know, a lot of companies can just open up stores or whatever. It's estimated that 75% of those stores will be located internationally. Now, what that means is because they're being expanded internationally, and 75% of them, so over 3/4 of them, will be international stores. Those international stores generate higher profits than domestic ones, because operating expenses are lower in international stores for Starbucks than they are for North American or domestic stores. 50% versus 44% is operating expenses. So majority of those new stores that they plan to open, 75% of them roughly, are going to have higher profit margins or just higher profits in general than domestic stores. And so we're seeing growth in areas that is going to be in places that hopefully, Starbucks isn't there. It's newer places. People are excited to use Starbucks, and they're going to be generating higher profits because of that. And so the international store growth for Starbucks is something I'm really, really like. But the final thing here, and I know I'm about at 8.5 minutes. I got my timer up here. But the final thing I want to talk about with Starbucks is just, and this is not, this is really for coffee overall, is it's estimated that, and this is from Starbucks themselves, so take it with a grain of salt, right? They're the ones making this estimation that the total addressable coffee market will reach $400 billion in the next 3 years. That is a compounded annual growth rate of the overall market of 8.5%. So what that is saying is the current market share that Starbucks has in this space would be roughly in 2021, they generated sales of $29 billion. If they keep their market share in that market, the coffee market grows to that level at 8.5% compounded annual growth rate, their sales numbers could be around $40 billion. And so it just shows the massive growth potential for the overall coffee market and Starbucks itself. Just like with Tesla, I'm going to make this full circle here. Just like with Tesla and the EV space, how, yes, Tesla is losing its market share. The overall market for EV is growing. And so this is kind of a similar thing where the overall market is expected to grow for coffee, and Starbucks is a massive player. And because of that, if they keep their market share, even if they lose it slightly, their sales in general will be increased by billions of dollars, if not $11 billion, if they keep the same. So those three things, you have the digital footprint that Starbucks has and continues to grow, and is shown has grown up 33% in China, up 30% in the US year over year. The international store growth, and it's more specifically 75% of those 2,000 stores, roughly 1,500 stores opened international, which is going to equal higher profits, lower operating expenses. And finally, just the overall market for coffee. And I know it's crazy to think about, but the market is expected, according to Starbucks, again, take it with a grain of salt, is expected to grow to $400 billion in the next 3 years. So those three things really get me excited about this one company right here, because Starbucks, even though it's a really, really big company already, I think there's other reasons I didn't want, I only had a few minutes here to talk about it, but I think there's a really, really great opportunity, and it being down basically 20% year to date, I see as a great buying opportunity into Starbucks, and that is why I continue to buy Starbucks pretty much every single week currently, because of everything I mentioned, plus a few other ideas as well. But that is my asset pitch for that stock, Starbucks.
That was really interesting. I want to ask one question. But yeah, no, fantastic pitch, tons of detail. So thank you for that. I guess one question, I didn't know if you touched on this in particular. Are you concerned with the lack of people going back to offices, the push towards remote work, being that Starbucks has so many of its stores in office buildings and in heavily concentrated, city centers? Is that a concern of yours?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't necessarily have like the data to back up this claim. So this is just a personal opinion of mine. But as I see around, just being on the internet and seeing people talk and driving around, driving down the street. I live in kind of a suburb area, so I don't live in a city center, so I can't speak about, like a big city like a New York or Chicago or something. But driving around in the suburb in the Midwest, even though a lot of people are working from home and there is kind of a slow, gradual kind of mix of people maybe going back in the office, some people never going back into the office, I still rarely drive past the Starbucks. And again, I know this doesn't necessarily mean the company or the business is thriving, but just looking at it visually, I don't ever see a Starbucks, no matter what time of the day it is. I used to live in Houston, Texas, and it would be like 3 a.m. and there'd be people in line at Starbucks. And so again, that doesn't, there's no data to prove that, but just from my own visual of driving by and seeing it, I haven't seen a slowdown of people using Starbucks, as well as, like I mentioned, the digital footprint that Starbucks has, and it continues to grow. People are, based on their data, are using their mobile app to buy. So even if, hey, I work from home, I'm still going to drive and get my, I don't go to Starbucks, so like with a venti something something or another, right? They still are going to go get it from there because yeah, it's obviously cheaper to make it at home. It's obviously probably cheaper to get it at other places, but they love Starbucks. They get incentivized to use Starbucks because they're on the rewards member. They maybe get like $1 off, or go 5 times, you get the 6 ones free type thing. So I haven't necessarily, again, I don't have any data to back this up because I don't know how you would necessarily prove it like that. But my own personal experience is I don't see any Starbucks. Even, again, I'm living in the suburbs, so can't speak for city centers or very heavily populated downtown areas. I don't see much of a decline in just the visualization of people using the company.
Sweet. Thanks for that answer. Um, yeah, no, that was great. I guess we want to go around the horn, or does anybody have any other
Yeah.
questions on this Starbucks?
Yeah, so Starbucks is a really interesting one for me. It's actually the first stock that I did a full DCF on and like really went in depth a few years back. And my concern during COVID was actually with their margins. So right now, that was like the biggest concern for me was growing their margins. So just trying to pull up the data that I had, and perhaps this has kind of changed a little bit from when I was doing it. Uh, okay, let's see. All right, I'm not seeing like the exact data sets, but basically the biggest problem that I had with Starbucks was their margins growing. And then once COVID hit, that made me even more concerned that they could grow their margins. But essentially, what they did was they basically just converted a lot of their shops to the grab and go, which I think allowed them to actually just up the amount of business that they were doing because people weren't having to wait around and pick up the cups. So that's when they really started introducing that, where they would just write people's names and put them out. So I thought that was a pretty good adaptation, and they just continued to like open stores. They just don't stop opening stores. It's super expansive as they continue to go, and their core expenses, SG&A, COGS, store operating expenses, probably spiked in the last year or two as they had to update COVID-19 protocols. But I assume they're going to flatten out and move forward. Colin, last question, and then we'll keep it moving, and we'll go to NFTs Anonymous. And that is there anything at Starbucks do you think that they could introduce to their business model that would continue to improve it? Is there anything they could maybe throw onto the menus or any other areas as an investor that just you think you could better the product?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not a big user of Starbucks, so in terms of what they do and their products, I'm not super knowledgeable on their menu or what they do or don't offer. But what I would say as an investor, one thing I would love to see, and I was thinking about this before you mentioned it, so I'm glad you talked about it. Is really, and they're slowly doing this, but I think really finding ways to double down even more on the digital experience and the grab and go aspect of it, because I'm looking at a chart now. Their margins did get cut in 2020 pretty heavily, and I would like to see them be able to double down on like I said, the digital experience where people can come in and instead of having to have a bunch of people in the shop working because for various reasons they can cut down on expenses and really just tell people, hey, we're going to be a grab and go, right? That's kind of what we're going to focus on more than to come and sit down and hang out all day. Kind of place that really help their margins and continue to grow the business that way. And so that would be kind of my pitch to if I was speaking to the board.
Okay, awesome, Colin. Great having you on. We'll definitely have you on some more of these as we're looking to make this a bit of a series.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Also, shout out. I see Anthony Ohayon in the audience. Looking forward to our space later this week. If you want to come up here like later on in this space and pitch a stock or an NFT or a crypto, you're more than welcome to. Before we go over to NFTs Anonymous, I think it's just a good second right here. So actually, this is like perfect for a person like you, Colin. So I see your timeline, and I know you're the decade investor, and I found you as a big stocks guy. But now I know that you have the crypto because you got the Bitcoin, you got the laser eyes on. And in addition to that, I know that you're holding NFTs, right? Because you posted about it today, how you're getting, um, you're getting those benefits from holding your NFTs each week, and you kind of have a little bit of everything. You have NFTs on Sol and ETH and everything, right? So you're kind of getting real diversified here, right?
Yeah, I went. Yeah, you're right. I was looking at this stuff actually. What you tagged up there, and I'm definitely interested. So my ears are
Perfect.
open.
Perfect. So yeah, so this is literally for the type of person like you. So the reason that I'm doing this space with Asset Dash, it's no coincidence. What I'll basically put out there is anyone that hasn't already checked out Asset Dash, which is up here co-hosting with me, if you're coming to the space saying, I like stocks and crypto and NFTs, or maybe you like two out of the three and you want to get to learn the other, this is just the ideal app for you. It's basically for the crossover investor, which is, I guess, what we're calling it versus diversified. But essentially, I have NFTs here and there, OpenSea, Solana. I've got stocks in Fidelity and E-Trade and Robinhood. I've got crypto on Coinbase and FTX, and I've got like all this other stuff. And it's like, how can I possibly keep track of it? And that's what Ashley does for me. You can connect in an unlimited amount of accounts on literally any of these chains. They have tons of different brokerages you can connect from. You can connect from Solana, ETH. They're introducing more blockchains. I have all my NFTs in there. And one of my favorite things with like the NFTs is they actually track the floor each day. So it gives me an updated floor price on my NFT portfolio each day. If like perhaps I wanted to liquidate it or something on those lines. They're also pulling in like really crazy different areas of crypto, plus like my crypto staking and just a lot of different opportunity within the one place. So shout out Ask Dash because one, we're doing a giveaway tonight, which is pinned up top. And then also two, if you want to be part of that giveaway, you have to download the app, but shout out the app for being free. So it all kind of makes life pretty easy. So love what Asset Dash is doing. And if you haven't already checked it out, and you're kind of one of the people that's up here on the panel or another, and even if you like two out of three of those things, it makes it super easy because I haven't seen a comparable item or product. Matthias, is there anything you want to add to that before we keep it rolling?
No, I thought that was great. Just to reiterate a few points, I think the big value prop that people are seeing so far, we were just voted number one product on Product Hunt, and I think a big reason why is the simplicity of being able to see your stocks, your cryptos, and all your on-chain assets in the same place. So that includes, you have your custodial accounts like Coinbase and FTX, but we also support on-chain. So you can just paste your Ethereum address or paste your Solana address and we'll pull all those assets. But I think in particular with NFTs, what people really like is we take that NFT, we assign a value to it based off marketplace data, and then you can now see how that NFT is performing, just like you would a stock. So you could see the 24-hour performance, you could see your NFT portfolio, you could see what your NFT allocation is compared to your Apple or your Bitcoin position, so on and so forth. And then in a few weeks, we're going to release a new update to our NFT pricing that we're pretty excited about. Can't share a ton on it now, but it's something that we've been getting a ton of requests from users from to basically account for more rare NFTs that aren't close to the floor, for example. So we're super excited with all of that. We love getting all of this feedback from users. So if you have any ideas on how to improve the app or different integrations or anything in your mind that you'd like to see, we're very responsive. So just shoot over a DM and we would love to get that feature up for you. But besides that, that was everything.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go into an NFT pitch now, and we're going to do this from NFTs Anonymous. So he'll be basically pitching like a specific opportunity within the space. Really did my best, especially since this is the first of these spaces, to make sure we only had like incredibly reputable people on this panel. There is no like shilling, I would say, on this panel. Like everything that's being put out there is projects which we've really looked into and put time and effort into. And the guys that are up here, like you just heard, Decade Investor, even in 10 minutes, make an incredible pitch there for Starbucks. And I'm sure you'll hear from Andy, a great one on crypto, and from Post as well on NFT. So definitely stick around. But NFTs Anonymous, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. All right. So the project that I have been most focused on recently, and this is my first project of its kind that I have, been this significantly involved in, really trying to pay attention to all of the announcements and updates, because it really has developed rather quickly into a sophisticated ecosystem, is Cool Monks. and that's cool, like spelled the normal way. And then Monks, Monkes, on OpenSea, it's Cool Monks Genesis. And what started out as what many viewed as a Cool Cats derivative project with monkeys is anything but. It's really impressive what they have, the culture that they've been able to kind of create and reinforce with their development. And that's the way I think that you are able to really harness like a sustainable community. Is it's not about the hype, it's not about the floor, it's about what is really going into the project as far as the deliverables, the expectations that are set, under promise, over deliver every time, and the consistency of the communication, and really emphasizing how the community is what's making it possible, and that they are the driving force for the project, and not artificial or paid advertising. So to break it down a little further, I'm going to go into the roadmap and just kind of talk about the collection and why I think it's a good opportunity. Currently, the floor is sitting, I believe, right around 0.5. At its height, it had approached to ETH. Currently, it's actually at 0.6. All right. And just pulling up the white paper here so I can give a pretty, overarching breakdown of just what's being promised or what's already been developed. Okay, great. Here we go. So basically it says Cool Monks is a uniquely fun collection delivering an innovative PvE, so participate, play VE, that's not play to earn. I think they must have meant a two there. So play to earn, and PvP, which is player versus player experience. Says to create a fun and nostalgic experience for our community with immersive new ways for players to interact with their NFTs and fellow community members. They had talked about early on in their preliminary roadmap the idea of breeding using the in-game currency. The way that you receive the in-game currency is through staking. For those that aren't familiar, staking basically means that you take your NFTs out of the supply that's being offered on the secondary market, and you, by doing so, are presented with a certain number, certain distribution of tokens, the in-game currency. It's called CMB, that can then, depending on what the platform, the game, whatever it is that, ecosystem that you're participating in, will have some sort of inherent utility or value as far as furthering yourself in the platform, or in this case, the Cool Monks world. So what started out as, you're going to be able to breed and you might be able to train, it's gone so in depth over the past 2 weeks here. It's ridiculous. And like I said, first community like this that I've ever been this avid about. I liked just their initial art and their roadmap. I thought the traits were clean. I thought the roadmap, had some creative ideas to it. It was like hidden quests and enchanted forest reveal. What's that? Secret cave exploration. What's that? Something about land, So there was just a lot of variables and a lot of different directions that I could see it kind of taking shape. And that was something that was attractive to me. It felt different. It felt innovative. It felt like they weren't just trying to copy everything else that was out there already. Sure enough, the more that I dive into this community, the more I am bullish, and the more excited I become, because the token and this in-game currency that they're going to have, it has so many different use cases, whether it's the race to breed monkeys, which then you can acquire trainers, which will train the monkeys to have a similar staking distribution as one of the Genesis monkeys. So now we're talking about things that are similar to creeps, most notably, or cyber kongs was another big one. I mean, huge, right? As far as the quote unquote passive income opportunities through staking, and then the introduction of a liquidity pool. So that's all set up here as well. But then it also goes beyond that to say that, well, not only are you going to be able to stake to earn in-game currency, but you're also going to earn resources through staking. And these resources are tradable and then also can be applied towards, building your treehouse, or to have advantages with the player versus player, experience. So, like I said, it's very well developed. And what I'm most impressed by is that you can tell by the consistency of the communication and the structure of the announcements and how the information's being presented. This was all pre-coordinated. I mean, that's my thoughts. Unless they're doing this like all just week to week, which I highly doubt. I would venture to guess that much of this was already done before they even minted. And I think that's how more projects need to really be kind of looking at the NFT space. Is if you want to break through all the saturation, because it's only going to get even more noisy and it's going to be even more challenging to differentiate yourself, I think the first thing that you can do is come correct and come prepared, and don't just try to wing it and don't just like hope that you sell out. It should be an absolute guarantee, no doubt in your mind, that you're going to sell out if you're even going to put forth the energy to even go halfway, right? Like, that's my thoughts, is that if you're going to not only subject the community to your experience, to your platform, to this investment opportunity, but you're going to subject yourself to it, and to stake your reputation on that, why would you not come prepared? And so I believe that Cool Monks has done exactly that, and that they're really going to differentiate themselves in the coming weeks when people start to compare them against a lot of similar staking opportunities, projects that have this play to earn component to them. I think that this one's going to continue to flourish and attract a lot of attention as things really get set into motion. Just to finish up, there was one other thing I was going to say. Current staking percentage. So another thing that I'm sorry, I remember what I was going to say. So I'll talk about the staking percentage for a second. It's going up every day. It's hovering just under 90% right now on the monkeys themselves. And then it's a little over 85% with the boost passes, which also act as a distribution of resources that you attach to your monkeys through staking the boost passes as well. Last thing I wanted to mention. We would be naive to think that when it comes to the NFT community, that there wasn't some sort of coordination, that there wasn't some sort of system for becoming successful or breaking through those invisible barriers as far as all the projects that are being presented on a daily basis. And so it helps to know the right people, right? It helps to have a network. Well, I can disclose that with Cool Monks, they partnered with Platoon DAO. Platoon DAO has a little over 9,000 people in it. Print My Mint has a great reputation in the space, and he put his community on both to Creeps and Cool Monks. So you could argue that those communities were triggers for why these projects had a solid community foundation and were able to sustain through the growing pains that most all projects are going to have, natural market fluctuations. But if you have a more coordinated foundation to your community and a community of loyalists, if you will, that have a reputation for holding, you can set yourself up for better results. And that was something that was also present here, where I think we're talking months prior to Mint is when these communities started to interact and connect with each other and kind of set the ball into motion as far as what the approach would be for marketing and for ultimately minting out to start the community. So I think that there's some merit there, and it's worth mentioning that projects that are standing out are usually standing out for a reason that goes beyond the project itself. And Cool Monks falls under that category as well.
I love it. The full picture there. I like how you went into kind of all those areas that we talked about when you want to do due diligence. Really went down into the team, the white paper, the project, product, utility, how it's different from others. Trading right now at zero point 0.6 as the floor price, which is interesting too, right? It's expensive, but not nothing, not like a bored ape kind of is. I see a ton of activity. They've had spikes of the floor all the way up to almost 1.4, it looks like too. So maybe it's even kind of on a little bit of a consolidation period here. For anyone that's in the audience looking for this project, it's their Twitter is cool, and then it's MONKES. So it's cool monks, kind of like monkeys. I'm pretty sure that's the one that you're referring to, right? NFTs Anonymous.
Yep, that's the one. And if you join their Discord, all of their white paper is published in these really easy to read and quite colorful, infographics that will really describe their ecosystem and their quote unquote roadmap in more detail. There's one other thing that I was just going to mention
Yeah,
about it.
they did such a smart idea with their white paper, didn't they?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is that you can tell whether or not and this is an argument, this is subjective, whether or not a project is quote unquote doxed, and that there's different levels to doxing, right? Do they just have a social media following, and others will vet for them, or would be willing to refer them as someone that's able to lead a community? Do they have a previous track record of projects that they devved or that they were on the team for? Or are they flat out doxed where we know who they are in real life, such as myself? I'm Tyler Stockfield. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Come find me, right? Like, not everyone's comfortable with that. However, I don't think just because someone isn't comfortable with that level of exposure, that level of risk, we don't know what their personal situation is. So I don't think that that's an immediate reason to dismiss a project as being valid or being legitimate. I think Cool Monks is a great example of that. Chili Appendix is one of the founders. Zoo is the artist. I don't know these people's real names. I don't care at the moment because they've shown with their actions that they're legitimate, that they're consistent, and that they're doing the right things, and that they're going above and beyond even. I started a Twitter space because I was excited about Cool Monks, wanted to get, not even like a pump and dump type of space, but just like, let's get excited. Let's celebrate this. Like, let's be the biggest Twitter space on Twitter right now. Like, that was, the intention. Out of nowhere, half the team showed up. We didn't invite them. They just came in and they just hung out for hours and talked about it. And it was very organic. But on top of that, they do have organized town halls that they do. So I think there's a really good balance of professionalism, but also they understand, they're empathetic. Like they know how to encourage the right type of culture within their community and actually be a part of it and not just overseeing it or, directing it. So again, I think there's a lot to like about many aspects of this project. And that's why I was excited to have the chance to share it with everyone.
Awesome. I love it. I feel like you were super thorough. I don't have a ton of follow-up questions on this, Matthias. Is there anything that you have?
No, I thought the pitch was great. I'm actually on the website now, starting to look at it. So no, that was awesome.
Do you like the artwork, Tyler?
I actually do. I really do, to be honest. I think that there is a good mix of NFT stereotypical, cliche, relative, nostalgic traits, such as, there's the pizza in the mouth, and there's the you have the rainbow mouth as another one that was always popular. You have crowns. You have you have an homage to the Cool Cats community. There's a lot of different things that I think are just super relevant, but there's also some stuff, I'm going to pull it up right now so I can speak about it a little bit better, some that really stick out that I think are just super creative. For example, I know that one of my big favorites isn't a creative one. It's the spacesuit. I have two of those. One is creative though because it has a mask on and it's just a smiley face with like a crying emoji. That's what the mask is, the happy smiling, happy crying face emoji, whatever. And that with the spacesuit and you can't see the monk's face at all. Like, I think that is hilarious, and it's so on brand for my own platform, being quote unquote anonymous. And then like the whole spacesuit's like, wag me, we're going to the moon. Like, I just thought that was funny. But they have some really clever traits in here, and they have different rarity levels, which establish the output of the CMB token when you do the staking. Ironically, I just pulled up a fake collection, so good thing I wasn't looking to purchase. Here, let me go to the banana rarity, and I can tell you a couple of the ones. And then they also had 10 one-of-ones that there's already been sales
How did
over 10 years.
how did you tell it was fake collection versus real?
Because the number of items was not right, and there were like no sales on it. I just was clicking and wasn't paying attention. But
Yeah,
always
because
a good learning experience.
one thing I noticed that OpenSea has to fix is that you can link anyone's Twitter to your OpenSea project. There's no verification process. I can link like Elon Musk's Twitter to my project.
No way.
Yeah.
That's not good. All right, so there was a gumball head, which is like, old school gumball machines. That's just like what the head is. I thought that was pretty funny. There's a shout out to Alien Friends, like I said, as well as Cool Cats, with a couple different traits. And then another one that stood out was the video game head. So that's probably my top one that I have in my collection is a spacesuit with the video game head. It's like the old Game Boy, like that's what it looks like. So yeah, I was really impressed with the art. I told the artist, on the Twitter space that, and I tell her that in the Discord frequently, that like, you really did something special here. When you can create rarity where even the ones that quote unquote are considered floor based off the scarcity of them still look rare or still look appealing, that's when you've done something right. And that's what I think Cool Cats did really well, which is why this mirrors that, but it also is providing a lot of unique utility.
Really good stuff. Love it, man. Appreciate you coming on and sharing today. Anything else there, Matthias, or should we keep it rolling?
No, I just wanted to reiterate that last point. I completely agree. I think when the floor NFTs still look attractive, that's when a project is in great shape. And just scrolling through the OpenSea here, I definitely feel like that's the case for this one.
Perfect. Awesome stuff. Love the pitch. So for anyone that's been joining, we've so far had a stock pitch from Decade Investor, an NFT pitch from NFTs Anonymous, and we are now going to have a crypto pitch from Andy. So Andy, floor is yours.
Hey, thanks. Yeah. So my name is Andy, and I'm going to tell you about a crypto pick. Now, I could very well, when people ask me where should I put my money in the crypto space, and where is most of my passion and my conviction and stuff, the crypto boomer in me just wants to pitch you Bitcoin, but I'll try to make this a little more interesting than just doing the default with kind of pitching something that is a massive portion of my portfolio that I'm really excited about and bullish on, and I've been in since 2018. Very excited about, and it's a Web3 play. So I think Web3 is really interesting. I think we're a long way out from fully realized Web3, but I think that is very much a part of our future. And so we should be looking at things that are going to be a part of that. And I'm kind of I'm a crypto miner. I do lots of crypto passive income stuff, and I'm a big fan of pick and shovel plays. So I like the idea that I can invest in something that people are going to need or use in this new future that I believe is going to happen. And so for me, one of those top kind of pick and shovel plays is a project called Flux. Flux is they're kind of positioning themselves to be essentially a decentralized Amazon Web Services. So they want to create cloud infrastructure. But what's really interesting about it is, one, it is all user-run hardware. It's user-run cloud servers, user-run nodes at home on Raspberry Pi devices, on actual full desktop computers. There's different tiers and different offerings of compute power. And these aren't like the nodes of the masternode craze of 2018 to 2019, which were just bare bones minimum servers that just carried a copy of the blockchain, did some validations, and spit out a reward. These are actually computational nodes, which is why I find this project really, really interesting. But essentially, because it is kind of spread out across the globe, it's run at your home, it's run all the places, it's truly decentralized, and it's only getting more so as more nodes come online. And because of that, it's not subject to the same rules and things of a standard company, where if they, you run an app, they don't like it, they can just turn it off. In this case, that would not be possible. So it's a kind of a unique, interesting opportunity in a more, web-friendly, Web3 friendly space kind of going forward, which is why I'm really interested in it. But more so than that, again, they've been around the block for a little while. If you've existed more than a year, in the real world, outside of crypto, not in all the funny magic internet money space, if you're a company that's a year old, you're baby, you're brand new. But in the crypto space, if you last more than a year, it's basically a miracle, because this is such a volatile, rough and tumble space. So the fact that Flux has been around since 2018 is very impressive to me. But more so, it's a proof of work blockchain. So it's a mineable blockchain. And because of that, it was launched as a fair launch. There was no VC funding where people bought up all these coins at super cheap rates so they could dump them on the retail investors as they come in. It was all fair launch, mineable from the get-go, which also makes it sustainable because it has normal proof of work block rewards that have been distributed between the miners and node operators. But also what's becoming increasingly more important in the space of these kind of quote unquote passive income plays and node projects and stuff is they have a very public team. Names, faces, LinkedIn's, all that out there in the open, communicate constantly, do AMAs, all that cool stuff. But they're also growing like crazy. There's like 50 to 60 employees, of which most of them are developers. And if you look at their GitHub, unlike a lot of other projects, it's just a bunch of green Christmas trees, which I love to see when I'm looking at the back end of a project. It means they're actually working on this stuff. And they've done a bunch of great partnerships, and they're on a bunch of exchanges and stuff. They're still a relatively small cap. They're only $370 million cap. And a lot of price action this year, but there's still kind of a road ahead of them that could be a very bright road ahead, which is why I've made it such a core part of my portfolio. But anyways, crypto passive income is something I've gotten more and more into, and I just absolutely love the idea that you can support networks. You can be involved in these projects, and you can, at the same time, receive an income or reward for doing so, for helping support. This is there's anything from doing the mining to DeFi and hardware devices and interest accounts, and then of course nodes, which is kind of the big reason why I love Flux. They have these Flux nodes, and so this is, like I said, the backbone of this Web3 decentralized infrastructure that they're building. But these are all user run, and unlike some of this kind of new crop of quote unquote node projects, which I do like quite a few of those, these you actually keep your entire collateral. You keep all your coins. It's like basically staking them, but attaching them to these cloud servers, to these online resources. And in doing so, again, you get part of the block reward. You're rewarded for that. And what's kind of amazing is seeing the growth of this project over the past year, especially, but since its inception, 2018, because it's gone from a couple of cents, 2 to 3 cents per coin, to today's price of a little over $1.50, I think. And so these nodes, the smallest tier, there's multiple tiers, multiple computational tiers. The smallest ones are making $240 a month. Middle ones somewhere in between $500 to $600 a month, and the big boys are making over $2,000 a month. So if you're somebody who's been investing in this, who's been mining it, who's been accumulating these coins over the years, and you're running this hardware, you're being paid pretty well to do so. And then that entire dynamic changes in the future when more and more companies are onboarded, more and more dApps are being run, sites and other things are being hosted on this network. And then there's also the fees for hosting these things that are then shared with node owners and stuff like that. So there's all this really cool ecosystem built into it if you are a node operator. So it puts this like a ton of incentive on individual users to like really dig in, be committed to the project, not just buying these things to get rewards each month and then sell them, but actually hang on to the stuff and stand up more infrastructure and more hardware. And it's this really cool cycle, which makes me think that a project like this is going to have no real issues with sustainability going forward. And the more adoption that happens is more goodness and more infrastructure that gets run on the other end, which is super cool to me. And this is being kind of pitched as a decentralized Amazon Web Services. I by no means think that this is a Amazon competitor, because good luck taking down that giant. But I think there's going to be a bunch of companies or individuals, as Web3, the idea of that and the actual build out of that takes place, that want a Web3, more decentralized, more uncensorable kind of option to put some or all of their stuff. I can see a lot of companies that currently have very centralized cloud infrastructure wanting to branch out and have something that is a little more Web3 friendly, to be more accessible to that side of the market. So I can see how they put portions of things, portions of what they have online hosted into places like Flux, which is where I see it just needs to get a little slice of some of that market cap, and it can, and there's just tons and tons of money in that space. So anyways, and then kind of on the topic of nodes. So right now, there's 3 tiers of nodes, but one of the reasons I'm really bullish on this is because they're about to cut all their node requirements for how much collateral you put up. And so this is about to become much more accessible to more people, meaning when this starts transitioning in March and April, their node network is going to go from currently like 2,500 to 2,600 total nodes to 4 or 10 times as many. So this computational network is all of a sudden going to explode with its capabilities, meaning you can put more and more stuff hosted on here, which of course is wonderful for something that is has so much room to grow in price and market cap. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about with Flux is something I'm really, really excited about in crypto space in general, and I think Flux might be one of the first to implement it. Like I said, it's a proof of work blockchain, meaning you have mining machines that that solve Sudokus in the cloud to make magic internet money, basically do these math problems, but there's no real use outside of crunching the numbers and making the chain stacking new blocks. But there's this idea of proof of useful work, where while you crunch the numbers and create new blocks, that all that hash power, all that electricity being burned is also used simultaneously for something else. Maybe it's medical research, maybe it's doing cancer research, maybe it's something as simple as video rendering or 3D graphics rendering, some other kind of intensive computational work that GPUs with all their multitude of processing cores on them are capable of doing at scale. And you can make the blockchain continue pumping forward, making money and making new blocks, but you can also do all this other useful work, which then all of a sudden makes it much more inviting to so many more people to do this stuff. And so Flux might be, in my opinion, one of the first people, because they've been talking about it so much, to implement this. But that's a general idea that I am super stoked on for the future of crypto in general when it comes to proof of work chains. But yeah, all that to say, Flux is something I'm very excited about in the future. I think has a very, very bright future ahead of it. And I am heavily invested, so I'm also heavily biased to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt in its future.
A lot of stuff going on here, Andy. A lot of things going on. Okay, so first off, for anyone that wants to check out what Andy's talking about, you can go to a couple places. So you can go on Twitter to Run on Flux, RUNONFLUX. Run on Flux, 72,000 followers. That is their official Twitter. You can also go to CoinMarketCap and you can look up Flux, FLUX, and you can go to Reddit where it's r-flux_official. Lot to like about this. Definitely has a clear purpose, which I think is really important. I feel like there's a lot of stuff within it. It's just like, hey, we're kind of doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, but this is clear. This is, use cases like website hosting and blockchain identity services and decentralized apps and cross-chain bridging infrastructure, similar to what you were saying about AWS. Also like that it looks like about 95% of the total Flux supply is owned by the public.